Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we are at 19027 Southwest Strickland Drive here in Beaverton. We're located at the front of the house here. I describe everything as if you were standing in the street, facing the front of the house in general. In this case, the door is kind of to my right, so more like you're facing the garage door in this case. So right outside the kitchen window here, right between the garage and the front door, we've got a 3-inch ABS cleanout. You can't miss it. It sits right next to what looks like the water shut off. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is running, and we're going to zero out the foot counter here at the base of the cleanout. Off we go here. My camera right now is upside down. Having some issues here with my camera orienting, so I may send the video over with the image flipped. Anyway, we are in some standing water right now. We're going to take a look at that when the line's drained out fully. You've got what looks like a half decent belly there, but we'll see. Running water can sometimes exaggerate bellies quite a bit, so we'll see. Alright, transitioning here to 4-inch 3034 PVC. Little bit of a wonky transition joint there. Looks pretty darn minor though. It's just a tiny little 1/16 quarter-inch lip on that joint. That has no bearing on functionality. And there's the main there at 41 feet. We'll give it another good look over as we come back in though. Make sure the joint doesn't look compromised. Alright, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates right out front here on Strickland Drive. Kind of just as a general route. Line again, the line pops out right underneath the kitchen window, crosses from right to left, basically the full width of the driveway, and right around the left side edge of the driveway is where the line turns, straightens out, and then shoots off into the road. And there's actually a marking out there in the street, little green T marking. It's not mine, but it looks like a city locate. Yeah, so my concern here is that looks like you've got, or again, right now my camera is upside down. That looks like you've got quarter-minus rock exposed right there. I'm going to take another look at this video in better lighting. I'm shading my camera, my monitor pretty good, but right now with a couple umbrellas. That looks like you've got quarter-minus compaction rock exposed there. Enough times, that's what that looks like. But I'll take a better look at it in just proper dark light, you know, better conditions here to make sure I'm not getting some kind of glare on my screen, but that looks like quarter-minus rock. Which is the type of rock you lay in a ditch the ideal way to bury a sewer line. You put cut the ditch into the ground, compact it, then put quarter-minus rock, which is gravel, in there because it resists settling so nicely. It's not a perfect science, but this may have more to do with how the joint was constructed than anything, but that looks like that's exposed there, which means the joint's open to the ground. Alright, just located this here. We're just out into the street. I actually thought this was at a different location. There's a very obvious settled spot right in line. In fact, I think it's likely related to the sewer. If you go to the front left corner of the driveway, that's as you face the front of the house from the street, you'll see a very obvious settled spot where a saw cut occurred. That's actually where I thought this was. When you get joints like this, it's not uncommon, although the rock does help resist hydro erosion. This is just beyond that, by about 3 feet or so into the roadway. I'm getting around 7'1" to 7'3" inches deep there. You'll see a white X. Again, that's a few feet into the street. Anyway, watch for the report. Right now, that's what that looks like. We've got an open joint there. Anyway, I will reference that in the report if for some reason it looks like just a visual illusion because of the light glare I've got. I will mention that on the report. Alright, then our belly here dissipates off at about 12 feet. Alright, so we are up over an inch of water right now. The camera head is fully submerged. In fact, you're doing a little better than that, actually, not better in a good way. It looks like you're probably closer to 2 inches of water. I've done over 25,000 sewer scopes at this point in my career. A little trick I learned years ago. When you've got around 2 inches or less of standing water, when I rip the camera back quickly, you'll see that water line suck down below the camera lens. You know, when you're around the inch mark, it does it very, very easily and obviously. In this case, I'm pulling the camera back quickly, and the water line's just barely pulling down below it. So you've got, looks like, closer to 2 inches of standing water in the line there. And because of the proximity, I'm not the guy that generally freaks out over bellies. I've seen so many thousands of them at this point. By and large, most of the bellies I recommend repairs on are like this, where you've got a pretty substantial amount of standing water in the line. It's over a long section, too. It's a 12-foot belly, but also close proximity to the home. The closer a belly gets into the house, the more likely it is to result in a backup if a blockage occurs. And that may sound funny, but not every blockage results in a backup. Many of them don't. A lot of blockages happen without people even realizing it. The line blocks up, pipe fills up with water, and the head pressure breaks things loose. That's under normal, ideal circumstances with no standing water that can cause buildup, things of that nature. So anyway, when you get a blockage here close into the home, your first fixture is maybe 3 feet or in from this clean out. So water starts to come back in very quickly. You just don't get a lot of chance for head pressure to develop. If this were a big long sewer line, you know, and you had this same belly 60, 70 feet out from the house, even 40, 50 feet realistically, it's one that I would hesitate to recommend repairs on, because in that scenario, it has far more to do with how the line is being treated than the belly. In a case like this, where it's close into the home, close proximity bellies like this, especially one that's, you know, hovering the 2 inches standing water mark and over 12 feet, is one where you can end up with issues even when you're treating the line relatively nicely. Especially tricky when you've got little ones in the household where it's hard to control what's going down the line. You got balled up toilet paper, things like that going down the pipe. So this is one I would like to see corrected here. Again, what I'm going to do is when I get home, I'm going to edit the video to flip it over, just so it's a little easier visual on you folks to watch. The writing at the top of the screen will be at the bottom. It'll be upside down, but I'll try and flip things right side up here, at least for the belly part of the line. The bad joint there, that'll get flipped over too, so you'll get a little better view of that one. All right, you'll see a white X right up against the clean out. Getting around 2 foot 6 inches deep. The depth there may be off by just a little bit. I'm locating right just over top, basically, the water shutoff. Sometimes having a cavern like that in the ground can throw the depth off a little bit when the signal comes up through that open space. But looking into the clean out, that depth feels fairly accurate there. So just be aware of that. All right, and overall, the line makes a little different trajectory. This is the first time I've looked into the clean out to see the angle it runs away from the house. The line is basically running from kind of the top right-hand corner of the driveway to the bottom left-hand corner of the driveway at about a 45-degree angle approximately. So you'll see the X marking running across this driveway square here. I think if you get lucky, it looks like it's under essentially one driveway square. That's always a good thing to have to deal with one driveway square, but it doesn't appear to be spanning multiple. But I'm between 2 foot 6 inches. I'm getting around 3 foot 2 inches there, approximately, at the end of the belly. So anyway, pending a little review, the belly I certainly recommend repairs on. The joint there at 33 feet, I'm going to take a second look at that. And just in better lighting, just to confirm what I see is what I think I see there. And I just went backwards here. Everything from this point on is all exposed piping in the crawl space, but everything looks good going through the foundation wall. No standing water, This right here looks like a little bit of excess pipe glue and or the remnants of a knockout plate that used to be there. There's hardly anything left of that thing. I'm not worried about that at all. Now, and everything else I saw there, aside from the 2 spots I was just mentioning there, all appears to be in good shape and has good flow. Alright, so again, there's the front door, kitchen window. There's the clean out. You'll see the white X right there. The belly starts essentially right at the clean out, and it runs at an angle right towards my back passenger tire there. You see the white X there on the ground. It basically spans this driveway square here. Luckily, not terribly deep. The joint out there in the street, the lip on that joint is minor enough. That is not even concerning. In fact, the first time I went past it, I wasn't concerned about that at all. There's hardly any obstruction there whatsoever. The concern is the open joint, allowing groundwater to seep in and or sewage to escape the sewer line. That can lead to all kinds of different things. Hydro erosion problems, sinkholes can form, things of that nature. I would look into the prospect of an epoxy liner to see if that can be done, especially if you're fixing the belly. You may very well be able to add a clean out in even closer to that spot. Some of the liner guys these days like to do that. They want to get an access point as close to the repair site as possible. But that might very well let you, you might be able to install an epoxy liner and overlap that joint and seal it off that way. I would certainly look into that prospect. Unfortunately, the belly has to be dug up and corrected in that manner, but the joint out there, if you're able to line over the top of it, you're going to have an even more minimized lip that's already very minor right now. You'll have just a tiny little lump in the flow line that'll be insignificant. The lip on its own right now is completely insignificant. If that joint were sealed up, it would be absolutely light years away from repair worthy. The lips that tiny have no bearing on functionality at all. So, anyway, after any repairs are done, highly recommend you rescope the sewer line to check the work. As it relates to especially belly repairs, trench style repairs, you want to rescope epoxy liners too, and you can fix that thing however you want to, dig it up, whatever. But when you're doing a belly repair, you want to rescope the line for your purposes as the buyer when the trench is closed. Otherwise, everything you're looking at is in theory until there's weight on the line. So the best way to do this is to correct the belly, bury the line, compact everything like you're going to pour concrete so it's got as much weight and stress on it as it's just about going to have, and make sure it looks good at that point before you do a concrete pour. That way you don't have to go digging anything back up again and cracking the concrete back open.